After he left Peaceful Medical Center, Nestor quickly got into a car. The driver was a pale young man with handsome features who had a layer of thick makeup and bright red lipstick. It was hard to identify his gender at first glance. Who would have thought that Logan Rhys would have gone into hiding in such a pathetic medical center for the past 10 years that he'd been missing, Mr. Wilkins? And it seems like he's still very much hung up on the incident back then. Should I put an end to him when the opportunity arises so that we won't get into any trouble with him in the future? The pale man had a shrill voice that carried a hint of malice. We can't kill him yet, Nestor said calmly with his eyes closed. So long as Rufus is still in power, nobody will be able to harm him. Every mortal goes through life and death, sir. I promise I'll make his death look so natural that nobody will suspect anything amiss. The pale man chuckled venomously. Don't be silly. Things aren't as simple as you make them out to be. Nestor shook his head. Do you know why Rufus willingly stayed cooped up in West Lucosia serving our master when he has such impressive skills and a troop of 500,000 men at his disposal? Of course, it's because he's intimidated by our majestic and powerful master, the pale man declared proudly. It's partially true that he's intimidated, but more importantly, it's because he's worried about the potential consequences. Nestor gave a slight smile. As long as the so-called Kirrin is around, Rufus will never take action, no matter how ambitious he is. On the contrary, Rufus would be an uncontrollable beast with nothing left to lose once his son was dead. And when that day comes, Stonia's destiny will be rewritten. When the princess consort of West Lucosia died a decade ago, Rufus had attempted to deploy his armies from the borders several times. But in the end, he always held back. Was the reason behind it because he feared death? Or was it because he feared the king? What a joke. The true reason behind his retreat was to protect Logan. Simply put, the influential and great Prince of Thesewi only had one last precious treasure left, and that was his son, Logan. If anything were to happen to him, mayhem would break out in Stonia. Sir, I'm just worried that when Logan returns to West Lucosia and inherits the throne, it'll bring great disaster upon us. The pale man reminded Nestor. The so-called Kirrin that people claimed to be an unrivaled genius is just a rascal who's still wet behind the ears. He's impulsive and easily angered, he's utterly transparent. Even if a person like him inherits the throne, he'd just be a reckless man who does not warrant our fear. I'm certain that once Rufus Rhys dies, the entire Rhys family, and even the whole of West Lucosia, will fall apart and end up in a mess. Nestor smiled vilely. But Rufus is only in his 50s. What if he still has a long life ahead of him? Will we continue living in fear for another 20 or 30 years to come? The pale man frowned. It wouldn't take so long. Just wait. Things will soon come to an end. A meaningful smirk crept up on Nestor's face. The master had waited for 10 years. It was 10 years' worth of laying out their tactics. It was almost time to carry out their plan and reap the fruits of their labor. When Dustin woke up the next morning, the medical center had been thoroughly cleaned, both inside and out. All traces of the fight that took place the night prior had vanished, and all relevant information had been hidden away. Everything was as calm and peaceful as before. Lad, your father has returned to West Lucosia. Gregory walked down the stairs toward him. As opposed to his usual drunken state, he seemed exceptionally sober today.